Today, I will be reviewing To All the Boys I've Loved Before, the Netflix movie, not the book. Laura Jean Covey is our protagonist, and she's written a total of 5 love letters in her life to all the boys she's ever had a really big crush on. And when these letters get out, that's when the main plot of our story gets rolling. And a majority of it is her having a fake relationship with one of the recipients of these letters in order to convince her ex-best friend that she's not in love with him. Sound familiar? I will be heading straight into the spoiler part of this review because there's a lot of things I want to talk about. This movie is a rom-com for teens, and if you've enjoyed 16 Candles, you'll probably enjoy this. Okay? Now on to spoilers. Okay, so this time I've actually made notes, which I wrote down in my journal because I couldn't find my notebook. So here we have my notes. This video is going to attempt to be more structured than my previous ones. I've made a few categories about this movie, and I will go off and say the things in this categories with words and things. The 5 categories I have is story, plot, characters, soundtrack, casting, and cinematography. Wait, that's 6. 6 categories, like I said. I'm going to talk about story first because I feel that that's the one part that this movie really failed at. And if it hadn't, it would have been an absolute amazing, even better than it currently is, movie. When I say story, I mean the internal journey that our character goes through and how she changes from the beginning of the movie to the end. Okay? And here, the character arc I think they were trying to go for was Laura Jean becoming brave, right? We start off the movie with her fantasizing about her best friend, basically, who's also her sister's boyfriend, so, you know, complications. At the end of the movie, she is confessing her feelings to the boy she likes, rather than just imagining them in her head. Sadly, when she confesses to Peter, it's not an act of bravery, which I think it should have been. It should have been her taking a chance rather than playing it safe, which is what she's been doing this entire time. She's been playing it safe. She played it. The reason why she started fake dating Peter was because it was easier than facing Josh. And I wish we had seen her grow up a bit and change, which sadly we do not. So for that alone, I will be knocking off a whole star off my review because as much as I love her character, she should have changed. And the story failed in the last act, I think. Her excuse for breaking up with Peter was sort of bullshit. I wish she had acknowledged the fact that she was a bit rash. I mean, she never even gave Peter a chance to explain herself. Ever. Also, given Laura Jean's love of romance novels and love stories and all that stuff, I feel like the movie could have been a tiny bit more meta, simply by making Laura Jean a little more self-aware. We have a scene with Laura Jean and her dad at the end of the movie. Well, near the end of the movie. And he's telling her about her mom, which is something he never really does, and so it's a real learning moment for Laura Jean. And we learned that her mom was sort of spontaneous and wasn't embarrassed to be herself in front of other people. And I feel that moment should have been when her dad inspired her to take a chance and tell Peter how she felt. Having Laura Jean only confess after she's read Peter's notes and sort of realized that, hey, he really is in love with me, it robbed her of growth. It robbed her of an opportunity to become a more outgoing and have a chance to do something on a leap of faith. To simply tell this boy how she's feeling just because. And as much as I love Kitty, that whole move of saving the notes for me, I think could have been handled a little better. I did like how Kitty did save the notes, but I feel like discovering that his notes were so super romantic all along should have been something that she figured out after she had confessed to him. And he was like, you know, there could have been like an after credits scene with them reading the notes together, or Kitty teasing Laura Jean, something like that. Because for me, the ending was probably the weakest point. I feel like they could have better incorporated Laura Jean's terrible driving into the finale, rather than all these calming shots, rather than all these relaxed shots of her driving. It should have been a bit more of her being like, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and showing her trying to talk herself up and convince herself to not chicken out on this, and maybe show a few scenes of her as she's driving almost crashing and hurting people, or how she just barely makes it to the school. And I think that would have made the climax a lot better, in my opinion. Also just made it a little more exciting, because it sort of got really slow, the energy around that point, which was, not very enjoyable. So Laura Jean should have told Peter that she loves him, or at least that she thinks she loves him. Listens to Josh how she knows now that her love for him was never really love, because of Peter. So doesn't that mean that she loves him? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I sort of interpreted from it. Which is why I was disappointed when she said that she loves him. Because honestly, Peter is so sweet. I cannot even, I will get to him in a minute, because I sort of love his character. I think I've covered sort of plot and story at the same time, so I won't really go into that category. So I'm just gonna move on to characters. So Laura Jean. Laura Jean is a little book-loving, smarty pants Asian girl with a great sense of fashion. So obviously we have a lot in common. But is a half Korean girl, and not to be totally racist, but I love that we have a Asian lead. Especially such an adorable one. I love Lana Condor, and I just followed her on Instagram right after I watched this movie, and she's just so amazing. I love her so much. I love Laura Jean's character, for the most part, other than her lack of growing in the last act. I really enjoy seeing her on scene. I love her outfits, I love her little facial expressions. I think the actress did an amazing job with the performance. And I think she was beautifully cast. Now on to Peter. Peter Kavinsky is the love interest of this movie. Peter Kavinsky is probably my favorite love interest ever. Mostly because I like how he's not a dick. In a lot of older rom-coms, the love interests always were jerks, for the most part. And although Peter gets a lot of crap from several other people, even Laura for a little bit, about how, he's just the jerky jock and, he's an idiot, blah, 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 he's, superficial and all that stuff. We never really see any actions from him that show that he is a jerk. When he gets... George. He receives Laura's love letter, he goes in person to talk to her and explain to her that, he can't date her. Even after she basically jumps him, he's very understanding for the most part and just wants to let her know that, hey, it's like, no, we can't, okay? I don't want any confusion. I don't want you to think these things. I want to be very clear, which shows a level of maturity, I think. And I think it's very obvious from the car scene where she nearly runs him over that he likes her, at least a little bit, even though he is still with Janet at the time. I do like how later Kitty is like, well, yeah, I could tell he likes you. It sort of confirms that it wasn't just the audience who thought it. It was like, sort of obvious for everyone that Peter likes Laura. I will be moving on to directing. The cinematography in this movie, I believe, is so beautiful. I loved it so much. The different shots and the soundtrack, I think, worked very well together. Excuse me. And I really appreciated it the second time around because I watched this movie twice. I found out that the director was a woman. I was even happier because I heard a lot of people ranting before when I was younger about female directors being horrible because of the director in a Twilight movie, I think it was. So I'm just gonna say that. Shout out to Susan Johnson. You did an amazing job, and I can't wait to see what else you do. Just to have Laura Jean voicing over a lot of things throughout the story actually was not as annoying as I thought it would be. Unlike Twilight, which sucked, the movie at least, the first one especially, where we have this voiceover and it was just so annoying. The voiceover in this movie was very well done and it added something to the story, which was really important because, you know, if it didn't, it would just be fluff that should have been cut. All in all, given the failed story in this movie, I'd have to give it 3.5 stars because it could have been so much better if they had written Lara Jean's character arc fully and allowed her to grow and mature. It makes me sort of sad that I'm giving it a 3.5, but I'm trying to be unbiased here. I do enjoy the movie, don't get me wrong, I love it. I love the chemistry between the leads and all that stuff and all what I mentioned about the cinematography and the music, but it's not a perfect movie. I'm sorry, even though I love it, I have to say it, it's not a perfect movie. So 3.5 out of 5 stars isn't so bad, but I wish it could have been higher. I will be making an Inktober video and we'll probably be posting it on Monday, even though I'll be recording it today because I don't think I'll have time on Monday. So I will see you guys then. Follow me on Instagram at RogueRider1997 and subscribe down below. Hit all those buttons, like, comment, and hit the little bell to get the ding so you can know when I post videos, which is every Saturday. So far I haven't fallen behind, so hopefully that continues. And I will see you guys in my next video.